On July 8th, GMMTV dropped the first official teaser for
นหนชลธี
and I'll admit I was pretty psyched for lead actor Pod after watching him in Dark Blue Kiss. Mike, Top Tap, Khaotung. The show had an immensely promising cast and a pretty solid first teaser. Everything was looking up. And then the first episode aired.
Let's go! Yeah! A little vamping.
People had some opinions, some praise, some criticism, or something in between. There's a lot I could talk about here, but for this video I want to unpack how the show handles Ton's character. It's good that Tonhon is portrayed in a negative light for the most part, I'll give the show that. But the writing, at least concerning his character, is just a bit lazy. I mean, let me elaborate. The dialogue for his character seems extremely stilted and vapid. I'm almost certain that this isn't because of Pod's performance though, since I know he's got some acting chops from watching his other series. And this doesn't just apply to the dialogue for his character. I feel like every character in this show suffers from lack of substance and or authenticity to some extent. Of course, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have flawed characters. Hell, you should have flawed characters in your work. But in order for your character to be compelling, sympathetic, and or likable, you gotta go the extra mile and put quantifiable effort into writing them. Half-heartedly throwing in some social commentary doesn't automatically make your show good. This is why Tonhon falls flat. He's given no real defining character traits, and the show really hasn't given us much in terms of his motivations. So we end up with some emotional moments that don't really feel earned. Tonhon's character feels all too much like a joke. So, to better accentuate the flaws concerning Ton's character, I'm going to give some examples of well-written characters who deal with toxic masculinity. Shin is probably my favorite example to use when discussing toxic masculinity. 3 Will Be Free does something incredibly unique and innovative by having his struggle with toxic masculinity be entirely separate from his struggle with his sexuality. Tana isn't a fantastic dad, to say the least. But when his son comes out to him, he simply says, "I don't care if you like boys or girls. My son will be beaten up by anybody." While Tana is completely fine with his son's sexuality, he still condemns his son's physical weakness. While Tana does believe that his son is effeminate and weak, this doesn't have anything to do with him being gay. This is an extremely rare dynamic in media, since his particular brand of masculinity often conflates male same-sex attraction with being weak or less manly. Dark Blue Kiss uses a similar approach with Mork. Mork uses aggression in lieu of processing his emotions. It's more complicated than that, but I've already explained his character more in depth in my video about Sun and Mork. So I'll keep this short for the sake of time. Anyway, Mork doesn't really have much trouble accepting his sexuality. The main focus of the series is him bettering himself and learning how to communicate his feelings to others. Again, effeminacy isn't associated with same-sex attraction, and masculinity isn't conflated with heterosexuality here, which is honestly really refreshing. I wish we had more masculine LGBT characters who didn't inherently view queerness as a threat to their masculinity. This example has a lot more in common with Ton. Instead of having a completely internalized conflict, Akira's arc mostly deals with outward pressure. Akira's parents desperately want him to get married, have children, and maintain a stable job. His family wants him to lead a quote-unquote normal life. This pressure eventually results in Akira breaking up with Yuki, as he sees their relationship as unfruitful. For Akira, conforming to heteronormative ideals is what determines his value as a man. This is an extremely common sentiment, especially within Japan where the show was based. Carl is the perfect example for writing a character struggling with both internalized homophobia and toxic masculinity. With the exception of his parents, most of Carl's friends and family are accepting. But Carl is still terrified of coming out. This fear manifests as microaggressions towards Vlad. For example, Carl is initially afraid of saying the word gay. He's also afraid of being perceived as anything other than straight. You know what we don't hate Carl though? like in the movies, spends a significant amount of time giving Carl character exposition. We know that Carl isn't acting this way out of malice. He wouldn't hurt a fly. He's just afraid of being honest about his feelings, so he projects his fear onto others. Carl is simultaneously flawed and likable. That's how you know he's a well-written character. All of these characters possess a key element that Tonhon lacks: personality. Shin is an artist and a hopeless romantic. Mork is a soft-hearted, lovable dork with a rough exterior. Akira is imaginative and kind-hearted. Carl is an introvert with a passion for filmmaking. I genuinely cannot name a single trait about Tonhon outside of his obsession with hypermasculinity. He's hooking up his friends with girls against their will and obsessed with having a manly physique. That is his whole character. Literally almost every line of dialogue he's given is about girls, or worse, is some cheap shot at gay men for being effeminate. This gag has been played at least 20 times in the span of 6 episodes. 6! And even if he is given a backstory in future episodes, I'm beginning to grow weary of the homophobe is transformed through the power of love storyline. I want more shows with a three will be free type approach where sexuality isn't the main source of conflict. While homophobia is a very real thing that should be addressed in media, TV shows that exist within a homophobia-free universe are a beacon of hope to impressionable LGBT kids. I can't really give my opinion on the show as of now. Who knows, maybe the second half of the series will address these problems and this video will be rendered obsolete. I'll be honest though, I highly doubt that this show will even attempt to give Ton depth. But at least for now, I guess I'll try to maintain some optimism. So, what do you think of the show so far? Do you love it? Do you feel the same way I do, or do you think I completely missed the point? I'd love to see your opinions down in the comment section. And as always, thank you so much for watching.